An oasis between America's amber waves of grain, peppered with picture-perfect parks and built for the bustling life in the Bakken. There's never been a better time to live in the city of Minot. Beyond its natural beauty, the city of Minot is renowned for safe communities and a growing footprint. The city continues to invest in these communities and in the future by restoring miles of pipes and roadways, leveraging state and federal dollars and other partnerships to build up our bridges, improve our quality of life, and revitalize our business districts, all of which is making the city of Minot a more resilient, vibrant, and safe city. Our law enforcement has built a community perfect for any family or any person to call home.
455.
The fire department invests time and effort into fire safety and prevention. In fact, the city of Minot is investing millions to protect residents from all types of risks and dangers, ensuring continued growth and future prosperity. Pair all of this with highly rated schools, parks, successful businesses or developments, and it still doesn't scratch the surface of what Minot has to offer. Name a career. It's here. The economy in Minot is diverse and active, and it allows for nearly any career path for the striving professional. Our neighbors to the north, the Minot Air Force Base, plays a key role in this for our city by luring highly skilled individuals from all over the nation. The best truly do come north. The area is most commonly known for the energy and agriculture sectors. These keystones help to recruit and retain a dynamic workforce and remains a major driving force for the rest of the local economy. A major university, a regional hospital, and the ever-expanding private sector continues to blossom and yields bigger and better opportunities year after year. Here in the Magic City, the sky is the limit. While Minot has a great professional atmosphere, things still can get pretty wild. Flush with entertainment and loads of recreational opportunities, there's rarely a dull moment. From arts to dining, shopping, or our all-season activities, letting loose is simple. Just a short drive to several lakes and you're one with nature. The hunting is robust. Golf, well above par. And even when the temperature falls, the fun never hibernates. Traditions are a pillar for our community. Thousands collect in Minot each year for our major events. It's the home of the North Dakota State Fair, the Norsk Høstfest, rodeos, craft shows, the beautiful symphony, the Nodak Speedway, and dozens of all types of events bring people in droves to our community. When it comes to entertainment, Minot really does knock this out of the park. In Minot, family is the foundation, traditions are our treasure, and business is booming. That's allowed us to build a safe, healthy, and vibrant community. Just look around. It's truly easy to see why Minot continues to bring only the best north and is the ideal place to live, work, play, and stay.
Hello, everybody. Jen here from the City of Minot, PIO. Today is number 1 of 3 in our virtual question and answer sessions. Today we are featuring our Public Works Department. The goal of these Q&As is to offer our residents the opportunity to ask 2025 budget questions directly to department leadership. So we encourage you to drop your questions in the chat. But more than that, we encourage you to engage with your city council leadership. There are a number of upcoming council meetings that are important as a part of this budget discussion. Council contact information can all be found on our website at minotnd.gov. Or also on that webpage, you can find our Building a Budget page, which includes everything that's brought us to this point, including priorities and directive from the council themselves, presentations and videos from every department, and again, contact information for any questions that you may have. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our team here. So again, today is our Public Works panel. So I'm going to offer each department leader a first icebreaker question so you guys can gather your thoughts, and then we'll circle back in that same order. So if you can just give us a wave for the intros here. Minot City Manager Harold Stewart. We'd like to have you talk us through the framework of building a budget from the Citizen Satisfaction Survey to existing commitments. What are those building blocks that we start with when we start the 2025 budget? Finance Director Dave Lakefield, he did join us here. We'll have him pop on the screen. There we go. So for Finance Director Dave Lakefield, yours is also going to be a framework question. So just give us a high-level view of the funds and revenue sources that occupy your team, as well as timelines and legal deadlines that you work to meet. Moving on through our introductions, we don't have our Assistant City Manager, Tom Joyce, here just yet, so maybe he'll join us. City Engineer Lance Meyer, the 2025 proposed budget adds a significant investment in street maintenance, which is also directly related to that Citizen Satisfaction Survey. So we'll have you talk us through that and what changes we'll see there. Utilities Director Jason Sorensen, he oversees all departments related to utility service, including landfill, recycling, sewer, sanitation. We're going to start him off in the water department. There's a number of water main replacement projects that you see underway in town already, or they're in design. So he's going to talk to us about what's coming down the pipeline there. Operations Director Brian Banfill, he's in that conference room you see there, so we'll get away from everybody. He's going to have phone a friend there available for him as well. But snow removal really topped the Citizen Satisfaction Survey as far as a high priority, and Mr. Banfill can talk us through what the 2025 proposed budget has in store for us for our favorite season. Now, again, we're here for your questions. So go ahead and drop those in the chat. We'll be answering as many of those as we can. But without further ado, we're going to go ahead and start off with Minot City Manager Harold Stewart. If you could just give us an overview of the building blocks for the 2025 budget.
Yes, thank you. The building blocks for the 2025 budget is a mixture of different things as part of the process. Hearing from the citizens for the Community Satisfaction Survey, particularly highlighting the need for investment into road infrastructure, maybe a little bit expedited service when it comes to snow removal. Code enforcement was an issue. Those were things that we took from the Citizen Satisfaction Survey to try and build in addition to the ongoing public conversation with regards to property tax relief and making sure that the taxpayers are getting the value for the money that they invest with property taxes, and then just implementing that process with citizens, staff, city council, everybody to participate in that process. And what's reflected now in the fiscal year 2025 budget is a balancing and inclusion of all of those elements as part of the process.
Okay, I guess I'm up next. Just a little bit about our question. What we do when we go through the budget process is we look at all of the requests that the departments submit. And we look at all of our revenue sources, and that can be things from federal and state funding, charges for services, And everything that comes into that, we make estimates on what we anticipate collecting. And that's how we arrive at what we need to levy for property taxes. So property taxes is kind of the last piece of the puzzle that fills in all of the gaps for what we can't cover for with other revenue sources. As far as the timeline, we start early in the spring, looking, setting the schedule, starting with getting council guidance on how they want us to prepare the budget, laying the groundwork, starting to do those estimates. And ultimately, we have to have an approved preliminary budget submitted to the county by August 10th of each year. And once we submit that budget, we can go down from there, but we can't go up. So it kind of locks us into the first step. And then after that, we have to hold a public hearing with the budget and also 2 readings through the city council. So ultimately, we have to have it approved and submitted to the county by October 7th of each year. And that's kind of our process.
Beautiful. Now I understand that Mr. Tom Joyce is in the conference room there. Give us a wave. And now I apologize. You didn't get a preview of your icebreaker question, but I know that I've heard this speech many times. So mission is very important to you, and you oversee all of the Public Works Department. A lot of efficiencies can be added if you're working toward the same goal. So just talk us through the mission and how you incorporate that when making decisions in the Public Works Department.
Right. So the key is really, I mean, obviously the Public Works and the Engineering Department, working collectively together to provide essential services to our citizens. So the focus is to keep the good things good and improve where we need to improve. So for me, it's really about integrating and synchronizing all the great department heads we have in this room and those in utilities and engineering, so that we can be as efficient and as effective as we can be to get the best value of every single dollar that we put forward to improve the quality of life for our residents. So this year, as you can see in the 2025 budget that was Mr. Stewart presented a couple of weeks ago, our focus, our besides providing essential services, utilities, those kind of things, our focus is really on bettering our roads. So Lance Meyer will talk more about that in his as he talks streets. But also, we're doing a hard review of our snow removal plan and testing other different methodologies to improve that as well. So more to follow on that.
Beautiful. City Engineer Lance Meyer. Our 2024 street maintenance budget is at I have the wrong. Hi, Jason. Let's go, Lance. There we go. So our 2024 street maintenance budget is at $8 million. 2025 proposed budget calls for $11 million, which directly relates to the citizen satisfaction survey. Just talk us through the reason for the increased investment and what that looks like for our residents.
Well, thanks, Jen. Yeah, that's exactly right. We're trying to transition up from our current levels up to 11, and then eventually where we want to be is about 16 to 17 million dollars. And really the reason is we're trying to not just focus on maintaining our arterial roadways, but really we want to get into the neighborhood streets and give those attention. Our current budget levels really keep us just on those arterials. So your 16th streets, 20th avenues, 37th avenues, the roads that carry the most traffic. And really what that does is it doesn't allow us to get off those roadways and get onto your local neighborhood streets where most of us live. And so by increasing those funding levels over time, we'll be able to get into those streets and really have an effect on where most of the folks live in town. So the request is an additional $3 million, and that will allow us to help get into some of these neighborhoods and really give some of those streets some TLC that they need.
Mr. Sorensen, we're going to move on to you in our utilities director capacity here. So we're currently hiring 12 positions for our NAS Biota plant in Max. That's movement for our water department. Our lifeblood of our city is all underground. We can't see it. So just talk us through the network of water main projects that are underway and what your plans are.
As far as plans, we still have about 70 some miles of cast iron water main that's in the ground of varying ages. We have some pipes in the ground that are probably from the early 1900s still. So that's kind of our long-term plan, is all those pipes need to eventually be replaced. Lately, these last couple of years, we've been able to leverage some funding from the Department of Water Resources for a 60-40 grant. The Bank of North Dakota has some state revolving fund loans, 2% money. So we're trying to ramp up. Typically we've done about a $2 million water main replacement project every year. We're trying to ramp that up, get closer to about $10 million worth of work every year, and try to get this down, instead of a 50-year plan, down to something more realistic. Maybe in the next 15 to 20 years, get all these mains replaced. They're very impactful to a neighborhood. They're very critical, and we've seen some great results from some of them so far. So.
And in operations, Minot City Council recently approved the lease buyout for our snow graders, which came from putting pencil to paper and finding out that there's cost savings there in the long run. So, Mr. Banfield, if you can just talk us through snow removal, especially as it relates to our citizen satisfaction survey.
So snow removal in this case, we really focused this year for the 2025 budget on just our overall process. So as you saw with the council meeting on 5 August regarding the graders, we're taking a hard look at our equipment, looking at our processes. We've conducted an after-action review of the overall process itself for snow removal. Much of the findings there really just came down to equipment and manpower. So we're looking at more efficient ways to utilize what we currently have within our inventories, as well as utilizing the personnel we currently have on staff. Some other focus areas that we're looking at right now, we're just trying to find staging areas for our equipment to put in various locations throughout the city to ensure that we allow more of a rapid response for repairs of any equipment that does end up going down during the snow season. We're also trying to find more efficient ways to utilize our equipment. This also includes inclusion of various new pieces of equipment or attachments that we have not used in the past. And then the last one, and what you're going to see predominantly in the 25 budget, is additional procurements for new pieces of equipment. And this is really just to get after adding to our current capabilities.
We're going to move to the online engagement here, dealing with the purchase of land. We may just start off with the city manager here, if you want to weigh in on that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a variety of reasons why the city of Minot could be looking at purchasing property. In particular, as we're doing the flood control projects, we have a lot of properties we have to buy out in order to do the infrastructure improvement. Sometimes when we're doing road projects, we need additional right-of-way or adjustments of streets and those kinds of things. Probably more in reference here, though, would be the recent public conversation with regards to the Kemper property, which is property adjacent to our public works facility. Initially, that came as a request from the property owners who were interested in selling the property, whether or not the city was interested in purchasing it for a potential expansion of our public works facility. That consideration was not approved by city council, but that conversation generated some information and some discussion from a flood control perspective. The Service River Joint Board, who works with us and currently has a lot of engineering going on, including doing some value engineering. After that public conversation and the denial of council to purchase that property, came forward and let city staff and the council know that they had been looking at potentially utilizing that piece of property to minimize some of the costs for flood control. And so the council then approved that to save the taxpayer some money when it comes to the implementation of flood control. So again, there's a variety of reasons why the city would purchase property. We're not actively looking to purchase property. Typically, any purchase of property has to relate to a specific project or a need on behalf of the citizens of Minot.
Now, through the intros, I hope that you all noticed a common theme in that citizen satisfaction survey. So be watching for opportunities to engage like that, which includes today. Hop in there and ask some questions. We have some very knowledgeable folks waiting to answer those questions. So keep dropping those in the chat, and we'll keep circling back. I'm going to move back to engineering. When we lose a north-south route, we really feel it, and we felt it this year. So just talk a little about arterial road funding, Lance, if you could.
Most of our arterial road funding, when we do reconstructions or expansions, comes from the North Dakota Department of Transportation. They're really the stewards of that funding, which comes from the federal government. So we, the city, have an allocation that comes from the feds, and we program those projects typically 5 years in advance. And so we work with our partners and come up with projects. Like we're working through one right now on 16th Street. So next year we have a reconstruction programmed on 16th Street Southwest from Burdick Expressway south about 5 or 6 blocks. And we're going to reconstruct that roadway, make it 5 lanes wide. It'll be a new concrete roadway and new storm sewer street lighting and very large detention ponds to handle some of the stormwater that rushes down the hill, probably like we're having right now. So that's about probably all in about a $15 million project. We couldn't afford to do that on our own. With just local funds, those projects are so expensive. So we rely on federal funds to help us pay for arterial road expansions and reconstructions. And so we work with our federal partners to help acquire those federal funds and then apply them to our arterial road network.
We could stop in with our finance director, Dave Lakefield. If you could just talk us through, streets is a heavy portion of our budget. If you can talk us through the various avenues that those funds come in.
Okay, so typically most of the street department function is funded by property taxes. This year we did use some Hub City funding, which is money we get from the state through the oil and gas taxes that are collected. And we also use some sales tax funding to round that out. So obviously with the increase going from 8 million to 11 million, we had to come up with some other funding sources so we wouldn't feel that impact on the property taxes this year, especially with the commitment to not increase property taxes and not take the increase in value to keep it at a level dollar amount. We had to utilize some other funding sources.
And come back to Mr. Sorensen here. Let's talk a little about the landfill. A lot of changes taking place, a lot of preparation. If you can just talk us through what's taking place out of the landfill.
So last year we started design on cell 7. So that is currently about 99% complete. We're waiting on some final pieces so we can start disposing into that. That would be the last of our originally permitted cells. So eventually, back in probably about 2020 or sometime in that frame, we had worked through the planning department and the city council and got a plan to expand the landfill further to the south. So we'll continue to work through permitting. Probably one of the biggest changes there in the last year or so is we've added the new entrance to the south off of County Road 14 or 37th Avenue. So new scale house, and that's where our new recycling facility is. So yeah, been a fair amount of changes out there, but business as usual for the most part.
Beautiful. We'll head back to the engagement online. This looks like an engineering question. What is the plan for 3rd Street Bridge? Lance.
Great question. So we should be just a matter of days here now until we have the information we need to understand what exactly the issues are going to be with 3rd Street. As I've mentioned, we're waiting on what they call a load rating. So how much traffic weight can we put on the bridge? And once we understand what that is, we'll make a determination if we can fully open the bridge to traffic or not. What we're really worried about is heavy loads going over the bridge, so semi-traffic and those sort of things. We don't want to put the public in any kind of jeopardy, of course. And so if the load rating comes back, we're worried about heavy loads, then we're going to have to put forth some sort of engineering effort to make repairs to any kind of structural members that are failing or have some issues. And so it'd be our priority to get a project out here yet this year, find a contractor that can make those repairs, and then try to get the bridge open as soon as possible. Long term, we're already talking with the DOT about moving forward with some sort of environmental document to get the bridge eligible for study, and that makes it eligible for federal grant funding for maybe a bigger project, whether it might be additional types of repairs or enhancements that would expand the life of the bridge, or a potential replacement. So it really depends on what the information comes back from the DOT and what some of those repair estimates might become. So it's kind of a two-part project. One is the initial repair, and then part two is really kind of what the long-term plan will be for the bridge. So there's a lot more information to come.
There is a capital improvement plan that is located on our website, minetnd.gov. Kind of talks through the plan for future projects. When a project like this potentially jumps line, what does that mean for other projects?
Right. So in this case, we did have a project plan here in it would start the engineering process here in the 25 budget with a project plan in 27. So we did have a maintenance project plan for that bridge. Sometimes projects float forward or backwards in the plan, just depending on the need. This happens a lot. It's not uncommon. So sometimes if a project does get prioritized earlier in the capital improvement plan, some projects have to move farther backwards, and it's funding dependent. So what we'll do is we'll work with our finance department and look to see if there's room in the CA or in the budget for this other projects. If not, then some projects might have to move out. So it's a give and take, and it really depends on what funds are available, and then we just find a way to try to make as much work as we can.
Thank you. We're going to stop into that conference room there with our operations team. We haven't had this question today, but we had a lot of engagement about our mosquito spraying activities. It was 50-50 in the chat, honestly. Love it, hate it, but facts are what we're looking for. So Mr. Banfield, if you can fill us in on a little bit of the background in our mosquito spraying.
So I'll give an overview, and then I may turn it over to my street superintendent, who's pretty much spearheaded this effort for quite a while. So big overview here is about a 2-year planning process that goes into the actual mosquito spray itself. So what we'll do is we'll kick off the season, usually coming this fall, submitting paperwork for the next 2 years for future sprays. We usually try and get at least 2 in every season. The chemical we're choosing to use right now is NALED, or at least it's the main composition of it. I know there's a lot of literature out there. This is the reason why the city provides links to EPA websites. One in particular that I would like to highlight here is going to be www.epa.gov /mosquito control, all one word, /NALED-mosquito control. The reason why I highlight this is because the EPA has done great work on highlighting the exact composition of the chemical itself, as well as give risk factors associated with it. But I will highlight here, and the reason why I want to bring this up specifically with NALED is the practices we use are basically to adhere to the labeled instructions for the actual chemical itself. We do end up doing about a 200 to 300 foot spray above ground, just to ensure that we have maximum capture of the mosquito itself, or do what we can to get rid of them. The spray itself is so tiny that it should have little to no effect on any other insect life that's out there. But again, we also spray late at night to also overcome this potential issue. Some other things to note here with NALID, it does have, and you're going to see this in the EPA report, it does have a very short half-life as well. So within roughly about 2 to 5 hours, the chemical itself really becomes inert. So it's really no longer an issue. Okay. If you still have some concerns, by all means, EPA does recommend wiping surfaces down on the outside of your house. We have had conversations with chemical specialists as well, as far as some other recommendations, but they really do follow what's out there on the EPA website. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Kevin Rutt, my superintendent, if he has anything else to add.
Yeah, every year we start counting. We set 2 CO2 traps out, and we get mosquito counts. And First District Health Unit discontinued that during COVID, so we have to take it upon ourselves to set a couple traps out, collect numbers for the spray team, and if we do have low numbers, then we just cannot justify a spray. So the spray team wants results, and we before pre-spray, we give them the numbers, and we give them the post numbers, and they deem it either a success or not a success based on reduction. So I feel like this year's sprays that we did have, they reduced the numbers quite a bit, so they were a success in my opinion.
Do you have counts off the top of your head? I won't put you in the spot, but.
I don't have updated counts currently, but I can definitely share a spreadsheet if needed.
Jen, I do have some. So leading up to the second spray, our total counts were in the 500 range. We can again give you exact counts at a later time via a spreadsheet. Post spray, I want to say we are under 100 now. But again, we'll provide those numbers to you at a later time.
Beautiful. We're going to stick to the heavy stuff, and let's talk flood control. Put you on the spot a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, flood control is ongoing. There's lots of parts and pieces that are moving right now. MI5 is the big active project that's going on out on the east side of town along Railway Avenue. We're expecting that project to be substantially complete this fall. We should have traffic flow going east to west along Railway again later this year. So that'll be great news for the people that live in Northeast Minot. We continue to work through the Maple Diversion, or MI4 as we call it. That project has federal interest. We've been working through a lot of issues in coordination with the 2 major railroads that intersect our project at that location. But we're heading in the right direction. We're basically moving forward with design again now that we've found some alternatives that work for everybody down in that corridor. And then we just kicked off design on what we call phases MI8 and 9. That would be the Burdick Bridge down by Roosevelt Park, and then MI9, which is the levee segment that would run south of there and tie into high ground. In between those sections, we have MI6 and 7. We bid those projects out in May. They came in well over engineer's estimate. We've redesigned and kind of played with the timelines, relaxed the timelines on the project a little bit, and we saw about a $11 million reduction in the rebid of MI7. So we awarded that through the Service River Joint Board a couple weeks ago. MI6 is the levee segment that starts south or north of downtown and continues over to basically like the Roosevelt Pool area. That project was bid in May as well. It was about 38% over the engineer's estimate. So that one is currently out for bid again. We did some similar modifications to timeline. So we're hoping for another good bid on MI6. So
Harold, this is a project that's going to stick with us for a long time. What does that mean for future budgets?
Well, it'll continue to be an issue that we continue to pay for even long after construction. So depending on the loans and the bonds and those kinds of things, with our partnership with the state, in particular, the city is responsible for a 35% match for a lot of that. So, as these project costs go up and as we continue to put the infrastructure in, so we have probably another, what is it, Jason? Probably another 15 years or so of construction. But then the payment of and financing that will go out, long well beyond that. So the payment of these projects will go long beyond probably anyone on this call is or on this video is watching or participating or paying attention, either from a citizen or a staff standpoint. So we will continue to meet that commitment and try to protect citizens. Try to keep them out of the floodplains for regards to flood insurance and those kinds of things that all have significant fiscal impacts to citizens and business owners within our community.
So while I have the boss here, I did ask for a half hour and we are at that half hour mark. I don't have anything else in the chat. I have a list of questions. If you'd like me to keep going, I can certainly do so. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, let's go to about 12:45 and see if any other questions come in, but we can try to answer some of these pre-questions.
Beautiful. So Lance, I'm going to throw it back to you here. Talk to us about the GIS maps. You have a lot of traffic on those GIS maps online.
We do. They're very well used, and we're very proud of the work that our team does here in the engineering department with our GIS. They're very popular, and we host a lot of information, from just general information about property to the city's utilities to traffic impacts and our different construction projects. We try to host a variety of information that folks can go and see and use, and you can even download it if you have GIS capabilities at home and consume that data and use it. So we try to make that information as publicly available as possible, and it's free to use. If you have questions, you can always contact us, and we're here to help you. So we also host a lot of floodplain information on that website at all. So if you have questions regarding, if you're in a floodplain or a future floodplain, that information is available as well. We want to make sure that our residents are aware of that. They can go and view that information, and of course call us if they have questions on floodplains.
You have a multi-year project in updating those maps that are behind the GIS system. I didn't realize that you flew your own. So just talk a little about that LiDAR line item in the budget.
We do. So every 5 years, the city invests in updating its aerial photography and LiDAR information. LiDAR is basically the process that's used to update contour information. It's a plane, and they shoot millions and millions of points via laser to obtain ground elevation data, and then that's converted into a contour line. So all that is also available for the public to use. So if you needed elevation information for your property, that's available to you as well on the city's website. So again, the last time we did that is 2020. So if you go on the city's website and you're looking at your property and you're like, wow, that picture is kind of old, it's because it is. It's from April of 2020. So that's why it needs to be updated. So that's in the works, and if approved by council here during the budget process, the flight would happen sometime spring of 2025.
Let's go back to our conference room here. A couple of items that are in, and I know that you have phone a friend ability there in the room with you. So either one, you choose where to start here. Let's talk transit and the cemetery. Those are pretty specific projects.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and kick it off with transit right now. I know there might be some specific questions questions on that side of it. So what I'd like to do is I turn it over to Mr. Brian Harinka, our transit superintendent.
Good afternoon, Jen. What in particular would you like to discuss on the transit system?
Well, you are celebrating something fantastic here coming up to this month. So just talk a little about the having a home, having a place to call home here to start off.
Yeah, we're getting ready to move into our new transit center downtown in the Renaissance Parking Garage. This is actually has been about 11 years in the make since we started looking for a new home for our transit transfer center. And through a lot of work and a lot of staff hours, we finally got this put together. I just came from there. It's looking good. We are tentatively scheduling to open that facility on September 3rd currently. Construction is probably 80 to 85% done. Flooring is all going in today. It's looking really good. We're excited to move downtown and be a part of that effort to revitalize our downtown area. We think moving people in and out of there all day long, every half an hour, is really going to help bring more visibility and more folks downtown so we can have them take advantage of everything downtown has to offer.
And you, of course, expand a long ways past just downtown. You've just added 2 new routes. How is that going? And just talk us through how to give it a try. If you've never ridden public transit here in Minot, how do you get started?
Well, we did just add 2 new routes on July 8th. They're going very well. The main reason for that was the construction of the new Trinity facility out south of town. So we're now able to get down there. We're serving that facility every hour. The other side of that route is up in the north part of town, north of the airport, and then west of Broadway, we're in the Ramstead area. And we've done very well for a new route. In the first 3 weeks, we saw about 350 rides on the 2 new routes, which was really exciting. So people are going out and using them. If you want to go out and try our system, we are currently in the middle of our free ride week that we provide every year. So this week, all transit rides are free. So it's kind of an opportunity for us to thank our current riders for using our system and give them a week where they can go out and not use their tickets to ride. And also it gives a chance for anybody who wants to try it out. Get down to the auditorium currently is our transfer center. We have buses down there every 30 minutes. They leave on the hour and the bottom of the hour. Go down, jump on a bus, take it for a ride around some routes, see how the transfer works, see where you can get to. I think it's a very good system. Currently with the new routes, we've got about a 90 to 95% coverage throughout our entire city limit area. So we're pretty excited about where that system is moving forward.
Beautiful. We'll stay in the room here if you want to update us on what's happening at the cemetery.
So what I'd like to do is we do have with us our cemetery superintendent, Mr. Rod Wojteliak. So I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to him for any new updates specific to really where we're heading with the cemetery when it comes to the columbarium, as well as future plots.
We've got a couple things going on now. For some aesthetics, our bell tower, which has been there since early 70s without any real cleanup or updating work, we're in the process of getting that cleaned and repainted and looking a little bit more modern. We are also in the processes of adding space to our columbarium. What we've had, the unit that we have, the structure that we have, has been open just since 2016, and it is just a bit more than 3/4 full already. And with usage going up and the time it takes to get it moving forward and adding spaces onto it, we're in the process now of getting ready to begin a process to expand that next year, so that people will have those choices all the time in the future. It's become a important run-of-the-mill everyday sort of process in the cemetery now, where it wasn't just a few years ago. And we're also in the process of doing some landscaping, some prep work, and engineering planning to open a couple of new sections within the next few years, so that our services will be, without being crowded. People will have all the choices that they need for the next many years.
Rod, since I have you here, there's a question in the chat about weed control. You are essentially a large park. Talk a little about what it takes to manage that.
Oh, it was a challenging year this year. We've been spraying the last several weeks. The weeds are an issue. This was one of the most challenging years because the weeds were more rampant than they have been in a number of years, and the weather was not very cooperative as to what we could do. We had some challenges early in the year with putting chemicals on the ground because of the number of people early in the season before Memorial Day. It makes it difficult to put chemicals that come in contact with people's flowers and decorations and all of that, and then have them handling it. And then with the several hundred trees and bushes and stuff that we have in the plant or in the cemetery, a year like this, with all the wind that we had, when we should have been spraying probably a little earlier, made it really difficult to keep from endangering the trees, which are very expensive and time consuming to replace. So we've been at it for the last few weeks, for half an hour or however long in the morning when we don't have any weeds or don't have any wind to deal with, and it's just been going through the process of getting that under control.
We appreciate you finding that balance. Thank you. Also from the chat, if we can have Mr. Stewart, Mr. Lakefield flip a coin here. If we can talk in general, high level, taxes are a big concern in town.
Yeah, that's an indication that we got again from the community satisfaction survey. It's obviously had some significant conversation locally and across the state. Again, back at the State of the City address back in February, we made the commitment to try to balance the fiscal year 2025 budget without any increase in taxes. And the city manager recommended budget did accomplish that. The preliminary budget, as approved by the council, does project a potential decrease in property taxes to the citizens of Minot. And the council's not done that. I mean, that's just a preliminary budget. And as the finance director stated earlier in this presentation Q&A session, that preliminary budget is locked in, so we can't go above that. We can't go back and raise taxes now based off of that preliminary budget and state law. So the only thing we can do is the council can continue to cut and drive that down further if they choose, as they try to balance the needs of the organization and the community going forward. So I think the staff has done a good job, and I think the council's committed to that concern expressed by citizens. Obviously, I had a major role to play in the council elections this year with who was elected to the council, and they're holding that line as well. So we understand that, but as the preliminary budget stands now, it represents a decrease in the property tax burden to the citizens of Minot.
Sorry, Dave, if you could just talk us through, how does property value relate to taxes in general?
Okay, this graphic that you have up on the screen kind of tells the story. When we prepare the budget at the city, we levy dollars. So we come up with the amount of dollars that we need to raise through property taxes. And then we use a formula and a mechanism to apply that amount across the total taxable valuation of the city. So we take the amount that we need in our budget, and we go through the formula, and then you can use that to calculate each individual parcel's property tax. So The graphic that you have here is kind of depicts that if we need to raise $4 in taxes and we have a $200 value, the rate is 2%. If we need to raise $4 in tax and the value goes down to $100, then the rate has to go up. So it's kind of that teeter-totter effect if we can keep the dollars steady and the value increases, then the actual rate that we need to apply to each parcel will go down. And that's kind of the attempt this year. Keep the dollars levied the same. The valuation is trending up a little bit. So the value for each parcel should go down as far as a rate.
And when you see that full dollar amount of our budget, it is not simply taxes.
Yes, and I know I've heard some conversation about the budget increasing, and the total budget did increase. However, the amount of property taxes that were collected actually decreased slightly. And some of that increase that we have, about half of it is attributed to large infrastructure projects that we have ongoing, some street projects, storm sewer projects, and of course, flood control and NAS play into that and make up about half of that increase.
Harold, I would say that this last question up here is for you. How would the elimination of property taxes affect our city budgets?
Well, I gotta be careful on how I answer that one. Once it's a ballot measure, there are some restrictions by state law on how we can talk to make sure it's not deemed as though we're trying to sway public opinion on how to vote on that issue. I will state, however, that the current ballot measure does call for that funding to be replaced by the state and paid for, but that funding will be locked in at the 2024 budget amount. So the main concerns would be if we continue to have an inflationary market and the buying power of the dollar goes down and we're locked in that 2024 number, the local city would no longer have any control over how to cover that gap, so to speak. That decision would then be made by the state legislature on if they would provide any funding above and beyond the 2024 amounts as is locked in with the current measure. And again, in one of the graphics that was showed earlier, property tax revenue currently funds our public safety, police and fire, street improvements, and some of our general administration departments within the organization. So any changes of funding on that would be asks of the city to the state legislature if that passes. Whether or not that has a positive or negative effect, I'll leave that to the public to weigh through and determine on that. And I won't offer any commentary beyond that with regards to that.
That's fair. We'll go back to a happier topic. Lance, it is back to school this week. We've heard a lot about how there's a lot of changes within our school district this year, and that could change how traffic patterns flow. What are you looking for this week?
Well, we're going to just keep an eye on things and see how those patterns change. The studies we've seen for the schools shows that the systems will be able to handle it. So, it really comes down to somewhat of a, I don't want to say guess, but it's a series of assumptions when you're putting those studies together as to where that traffic's going to come from. So part of it is just monitoring that traffic and seeing if some of those assumptions are right by the traffic planners when they put those studies together. And if adjustments need to be made as far as maybe like signal timings or some of those things, then we'll monitor that and make those adjustments. So, like downtown Burdick Expressway, for instance, we have the signal capabilities now to adjust timing plans if we need to help move some of that traffic around. So we'll keep an eye on it, and if we have to make adjustments, we'll be prepared to do that.
So I am going to bring back my Public Works panel here and ask that famous reporter question. Is there anything else that you would like to add about the Public Works Department? Anything that I've missed? Anything that is real high on your radar pertaining to the 2025 proposed budget?
Jen, we could probably talk about NAS.
I would love that.
So, NAS has been something that we've talked about in the community for, 20 plus years, 25 plus years. And, that project was in litigation for about 17 years. So we've done a lot of really great work here in the last 5 years. And there is an end in sight. We have our biota treatment plant is nearly complete down in Max. We're currently working on getting the pumping station down at Snake Creek retrofitted. So fingers crossed, we're hoping to have Lake Sakakawea water flowing into Minot by about mid next year.
And a great party to boot, right?
Definitely.
Everybody's invited. Perfect. Anything else from our Public Works team? Mr. City Manager, anything that you can think of for our Public Works team?
Not for Public Works, no.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so clearly there's a lot to be done within the City of Minot, so we are going to let our team go. We're not going to keep them any further. They're going to keep taking care of Minot's tomorrow, so we appreciate you guys being here. We're going to be back at the same time on Thursday and Friday for continued 2025 budget chats. Thursday is going to feature our public safety team. Friday will feature general government to include airport, grants, assessors, HR. To our residents, you're certainly welcome to submit your questions in advance so the team can come prepared, or just join us at noon on Thursday and Friday. So until then, thank you to the team. Thank you, City of Minot, and keep building excellence as a community. Have a wonderful day.